This is my presentation, Command Control and Coordination Mechanism, or it is also known as Incident Management System. Actually in USA, they call it Incident Management System, whereas in Australia, they call it Command Control and Coordination Mechanism. And there is a slight difference. Both these systems are very similar and very effective also. I should say it is more effective in Australia than in the USA, because in the USA we experienced during the Hurricane Katrina that this system almost failed there. But in Australia they are doing a very good job. So I should say their system is more sophisticated and more comprehensive and more well organized. But whatever the system is, we cannot say how effective it is unless and until we test it during the real emergency. That is very important. Before I begin, I would like to express my sincere thanks to this university and Honorable Vice President Professor Dr. Abdullah Omar Bafil and the Honorable Dean Professor Dr. Fadil and all other faculty members, students and officials. Actually, this is my first time to Saudi Arabia, so I am very happy to be here and I liked it very much. Okay, when we talk about incident management system or command control and coordination mechanism, we have to consider two things, event and incident. Event we can correct in certain point of time. Incident we cannot correct. Whenever the incident is over, then you cannot correct your mistakes. But in event you have chances to improve or to correct the mistakes, and you can learn lessons from the past. But in incident, if you fail, then you are failed. So that is very important for us to understand or to know. Since we have a lot of time until 1 o'clock, I guess, I have this presentation, as well as if we'll have more time, then I would like to make a brief presentation on effective disaster management system as well. There are some systems through which we can manage our disasters more efficiently and effectively, if the time permits. Because I have about 32 slides here, so maybe I will finish earlier. And regarding the question, you can ask in the middle of presentation also. You can interrupt me and you can ask the question if necessary. But this is very simple. I think it will not be difficult for you to understand. All these things are being, I guess, practiced here also and in many countries as well. And partially we are also applying this method in our country, back in Nepal. So let us see what is an incident. This incident is defined as an occurrence caused by either human or natural phenomena that requires action to prevent or minimize loss of life, damage to property or the environment. It is somehow similar to the definition of disaster, but when we define disaster, we say that when it overwhelms the capacity of the local government or the provincial government or the central government, and when it requires external assistance or help, then that is a disaster. So the definition of disaster is, the scope of the definition of disaster is wider than the definition of incident. The definition of incident covers small area. So it is, in other words, we can say this is micro level, whereas disaster is macro level, is huge. So again, please don't be confused that I can use incident command system as well as command control and coordination mechanism. I told you in the beginning that both these things are similar, and we can take it as single thing. You don't need to be confused. So I have used somewhere ICS and somewhere command control and coordination mechanism. So basically they are very similar. So what is incident command system? This is a standardized on-scene all hazards incident management concept. So in a given country, there may be different kinds of hazards. In a landlocked country, you may not have seaborne calamities like tsunami or other hazards. Whereas in some countries you can find many more hazards. In some countries you can have less hazards. I'm very happy to learn, to know that Saudi Arabia has not that much of hazards like in other countries. In our country, I'm from Nepal, and also I go to Australia to take classes sometimes. So Australia also is highly prone to various types of disasters. Nepal is highly prone to various types of disasters. Not only Nepal, the whole South Asian region is highly prone to many disasters. Like we have in Nepal we don't have cyclones, but in Bangladesh they have floods, cyclones, tsunamis, and partly earthquake. Nepal is highly prone to earthquake, and we have the disaster of floods, landslides, lightning, epidemic, and globs. You see, glacier lake outburst, floods, and so many disasters we have. But here you have less disasters. That is very good news, very good thing, and you will be able to manage properly if you have less disasters, and you don't need to spend a lot of money, and you don't need to allocate a lot of resources. But when you have too many disasters, and if the economy of the country is not that good, then you will have really very hard time. That we are experiencing in that part of the world, because we have less resources, less budget, and we have too many disasters, and our development efforts are lagging behind. Because when you allocate money for development or other works, then whenever there is a natural calamity or disaster, then you have to spend money, you have to take out the money from the development efforts to mitigate the disasters. So that is why it affects the development process. So actually, as a matter of fact, in the whole world, there are no countries which are immune to disasters. But there are some countries which have less disasters. This morning, Harald told that in Norway they have less disasters. Similarly, in Denmark also they have less disasters. And there are some countries where they have less disasters, but they are not immune. They also have disasters sometimes. The only question is number, how many people are being affected. Take the example of my country, Nepal. The population size of Nepal, I guess, is similar to Saudi Arabia. We have about 30 million people. But the casualty every year in average, we have 1,000 people die every year due to floods, landslides, lightning, windstorm, hailstorm, globs, avalanche. We have so many disasters, epidemic. So in average we have 1,000 casualties. But sometimes it falls down to 300, 400, and 500, and sometimes it goes up to 1,200, 300, 1,500 also. So if you compare Nepal and Saudi Arabia, I should say you are more safe than our country. It is because of our geology, because of our economy, because of probably the education level or awareness level, or there are so many factors, you see, due to the nature and due to the human behavior as well. So when we talk about this ICS, Incident Command System, second thing is it allows its users to adopt an integrated organizational structure to match the complexities and demands of single or multiple incidents without being hindered by jurisdictional boundaries. So in the time of disaster or crisis, you see, you have to cross the boundary sometimes. You cannot always follow the rules and regulations. If you try to follow the rules and regulations, then your response mechanism may fail, or may be limited, or may be hindered. So you have to cross the boundaries from time to time. These are the three. There are three main objectives of incident command system. It helps to ensure the safety of the responders and others, because when we go for rescue and relief works, when we go for to help the people who are in danger, or who are in crisis, or who are being affected by disasters, then if the responder himself or herself is in danger, then it will be chaos. He cannot save the lives of the affected population, and there will be actually no systematic help in place. So that is why the safety of responders is of prime importance. It is very important. It is very necessary. It is very essential. And the achievement of tactical objectives. if your tactics, if your way of response is not well organized, well managed, then there will be further damage. There may be further damage, further casualty, or further injuries, or further loss. So if it is well managed and well organized, then the response will be very efficient and effective. And the third thing is the efficient and optimal use of resources. Even if you have sophisticated, highly developed resources available at hand, if you are not able to use properly, appropriately, and timely, then the use may fail, or the impact or the effectiveness may be less than our expectation. And here is the hierarchy. You see steps. This is the level of incident command system. First of all, we have to we have to learn the background and risk. So we have to find out what kind of disaster is occurring, what kind of crisis or emergency is at the site, at the scene. We have to identify, we have to find out, we have to know, we have to be familiar with that crisis. And then we have to assess the incident. So what kind of incident that is, whether it is fire hazard, it is earthquake, it is flood, landslide, lightning, tsunami, or volcanic eruption. So what kind of disaster or emergency or crisis it is, we have to know first, and we have to assess the damage, the level of impact or level of damage we have to assess. And then we have to manage the response. For that, we must have response framework. I guess in Saudi Arabia also we have developed a response framework. If not, it is highly necessary to develop response framework. So taking this opportunity, I would like to share with you that probably you are already aware, you know that in each and every country, if you don't have well-structured legislation, then you cannot move properly. So first of all, you must have, not only for disaster management, for each and everything, you must have policy. Number one is policy. Number two, you must have an act. Say, for example, disaster management policy, disaster management act, and to make smooth your work, you must have regulation. If we talk about disaster management, then we must have disaster management regulation, because in act, you cannot describe, you cannot explain each and everything. Act is the brief form of regulation, whereas in regulation you can explain how to move ahead, how to process. And then you can develop strategy, you can develop action plans, you can issue standing orders, and you can have, as mentioned here, framework, and so many things. You see, you can have various levels of plan: central level plan, provincial plan, district level plan, local level plan, and there are so many modalities of disaster risk reduction plans and programs in various countries. So you can learn from others, you can share your experience with other countries, and make your plan more effective and efficient, so that you can reduce the loss of damage of the property, and loss of human lives and injuries as well. So these are the main things we should have. And if we talk about our region, you see, in Nepal we had Disaster Management Act in 1982. That time India had no Disaster Management Act. Bangladesh no, Pakistan no, Sri Lanka no, Bhutan, Maldives, they had no act. They learned from us, and they also developed Disaster Management Act. Now they are doing. And in Bangladesh, I give you an example. When there was a very big cyclone in I forgot the year, it's around mid-90s. So they lost 700,000 people's lives in a cyclone. But later on, they developed an act. They, as I mentioned earlier, they developed policy, strategy, action plans, standing orders, and various levels of plans. And then the similar type of cyclone occurred in 2007, and the life loss was only 5 to 7,000 only. So they reduced by 100 times. You see, so if you have very appropriate, comprehensive, and well acceptable legal framework, then you can reduce the hazards to a significant number. Okay, and then in incident command system, finally, after carrying out the rescue and relief works, we have to evaluate how it went. It went well, or it was how was the response? It was good, very good, or poor, so that we can correct in our future interventions. That is very important. Evaluation is very important. We can call it debriefing also. Before you go to the response, if possible, it is better to have a briefing, if possible. Sometimes you may not have time for briefing. You have to run straight away. But sometimes you may have time. So briefing is necessary, and then you have to go there and you have to assess the situation, and you have to carry out a response. You have to carry out rescue and relief works and other things. And then finally, when you finish your work, then you have to debrief or evaluate the situation, how well it went. And you have to report to the concerned authorities, or you have to keep record yourself if you are the in charge, so that you can correct your mistakes in the future, and you can respond more efficiently and effectively in the days to come. That's very, very important. So this is the level of incident command system, this hierarchy, or the steps, you can see the levels. You can move from this level. So this is the process, you see. So we can process like this. First of all, a systematic tool used for command, control and coordination for emergency response. Here I have used this command, control and coordination. This is ICS, don't be confused again. So we can develop our own tool, or we can copy from others. We can learn from others, because the tool which you use in your country may not be applicable to other countries, and the tools used by other countries may not be totally applicable to your countries. So it depends. That is why we have to share experiences. We have to share our tools and other experiences, even legislation, so that we can convert them into the situation of our country. We can make it compatible to our situation. And number two is it includes personnel, policies, procedures, facilities and equipment. All these things, these are the necessary things for an efficient incident command system. You see, we must have well-trained, efficient personnel, and in adequate number, of course. If the number is less, then they cannot carry out their function properly. And we must have policies. I told you earlier that it is highly necessary to have policy, act, rules, regulations, standing orders, frameworks, strategies and action plans, laws, bylaws and so on and so forth. So it depends upon the situation. And procedures, you have to prepare a procedure. And one thing I think, I know you already know it, but what I would like to say here is that acts and regulations are binding, legally binding. You have to follow, you must follow. But strategies, action plans, you can correct from time to time. And sometimes you will not be punished if you don't follow. So we should know the difference between the acts, regulations and other things. The things which are not legally binding sometimes are ignored, or we can just bypass. But if it is mentioned in the act or regulation, then you cannot bypass. That is very important for us. So procedures, yeah, you can develop according to your country situation, and it depends what kind of disaster it is, whether it is fire, it is earthquake, it is landslide, it is flood, or it is lightning or cyclone or tsunami or what. So it depends what kind of disaster it is, and then the procedure should be followed accordingly. The procedure prepared for cyclone, of course, cannot be used for earthquake, and the procedure prepared for earthquake may not be applicable for other disasters, because they are totally different. Some disasters are similar, they are similar to each other, but many disasters, they are quite different, like volcanic eruption, earthquake, tsunami, floods, landslides, globes, they are totally different. And epidemics, of course, is very, very different, because epidemics, we can take it as a human induced, it's not natural. So, and the facilities and equipment are highly necessary. If you don't have adequate and necessary equipment, and if you don't have facilities, even if you are highly efficient, even if you are highly trained, you cannot move ahead, you cannot carry out response and relief works properly and efficiently. And the third thing is that integrated into a common organizational structure designed to improve emergency response operations of all types and complexities. So it should be common so that because you see disaster management system is a system where a lot of agencies, lot of organizations and a lot of disciplines are being involved together. It cannot be carried out efficiently and effectively by a single agency or by a small group of people. So this is a diverse field of work, crisis management or disaster management. And here one thing I would like to mention that whenever I use the term crisis, emergency and disaster, please take it as the same. There is difference, but there is not much difference. Only the difference is the level, the volume. So the system should be applicable, should be understandable by all the agencies involved in, particularly in response. And the fourth thing is it is based upon changeable and scalable response organization. I told you earlier that we cannot change the policy, we cannot change the act, we cannot change the regulation immediately, because to change your act, it should go to the parliament. To change the regulation, I think it should go to the cabinet. To change the policy, also you have to go to cabinet. But you can change your way of working modality or the process, or if you have framework, or if you have strategy, or if you have any plan, program or project, you can change it from your organization itself according to the need, according to the demand of the people or the situation, you can change it. So that thing we have to keep into mind. That is why the policy, the act and the regulations should be formulated and implemented very carefully. While we cannot change in no time, we cannot change immediately, it takes time. So that is very important. So the process and the framework and the strategy, we must, that kind of document should be like a living document, you see, so that you can change as and when necessary. That is very important. And provide a common hierarchy within which people can work together effectively, because whenever there is a big disaster, then health personnel are there, security personnel are there, disaster managers are there, maybe politicians are there, media people are there, and civil defense force is there, volunteers may be there. So it should be common and applicable to each and every organization and each and every individual, so that they can work together in good harmony. Otherwise there will be conflict of interest, there will be you see confusion, and they cannot carry out relief and rescue work properly. So that is why we must have meetings, seminars, interactions from time to time from among these organizations and individuals to carry out efficiently. And officials from multiple agencies may be invited who don't routinely work together. So if you are from the Ministry of Home Affairs or Interior Affairs, and if you are from the Department of Disaster Management or the university or any other academic field or security or maybe Red Crescent, you have to organize meeting in due time, from time to time, so that you can interact, you can understand, you can know each other, and you can share your experiences, exchange your knowledge and ideas each other, so that when the real disaster occurs, happens, then you can work as a team, as a well-known team. But in normal time, you work in your respective offices. You don't work together in daily business. So that is also very necessary. And designed to give standard response and operation procedures to reduce problems and miscommunication on such incidents. So when we meet from time to time to in future how to move ahead, if something happens, then how do we respond? So that kind of interaction, that kind of meeting, that kind of discussion we can held from time to time, and we can create harmony among ourselves. So in this incident command system, these are the responsible officials on the left and incident commander. So the responsible official is the person who maintains legal statutory authority for public safety in a jurisdiction, and it is elected, it can be elected officials like mayors or district chief or agency executive. It depends. If it is in a municipal area, then the mayor will be the main person, the person in authority. If it is in provincial or district level, maybe governor or chief district officer or local level chief, and like that. And it provides direction to incident commander. So when we talk about command, control and coordination mechanism or incident management system, you see, on the field, on the site, there is the incident commander. But at the top level, there may be, as mentioned here, mayor or other organizational head who directs indirectly. The commander is on the field, on site. He's on site. But the leader maybe not in the site. He may visit from time to time, but he directs indirectly. And in some situations, there may be more than one responsible official involved in the incident. For example, mayor and public health director. If there is health crisis or if there is fire hazard, then maybe mayor is not the specialist of public health or fire hazard. In that case, the chief of fire brigade or the person who is responsible for managing or reducing the fire hazard will take the here I have got one message regarding the break. So in 1 hour, if necessary, we will make a short break and then we'll come back again. We'll be here until 1 o'clock, I guess, or we can continue as you wish. I leave it to you. So this is very important to understand that in the coming slides I will mention, but the commander will be the specialist. If this is a fire hazard, then the commander of fire or the fire brigade will take the in charge, will take the charge of commander. And then if it is related to health matters, then the chief of hospital or the Department of Health will be the in charge. You see, so it depends what kind of hazard it is. And if it is riot, of course, the police chief will be the commander. And if it is related to other field, then the concerned chief of that field will be the in charge. So now, incident commander. Incident commander, he will command at the incident. He will coordinate among the different stakeholders, and he will instruct how to move ahead, what to do, what are the next steps, what ought to be, and like that. And he will use common language. Even in some countries, you see people speak different languages. In our country, there are more than 100 languages, but we have one single national language, so we use that one. But in a country where they speak a lot of languages, then there may be some miscommunication. So for that purpose, we have to use common language so that they can understand each other well in due time. And of course, they must have common understanding, and the role should be clear and the responsibilities should be fixed. One should know what is their roles and responsibility. And of course, there is the involvement of various agencies. So in a big disasters, you see there are health personnel, there are security personnel, and there are, as I mentioned earlier, media people and civil defense people, and so many. So they have to work in good harmony among each other. So there would be an incident commander, and there could be a deputy incident commander, and there will be power delegation and work assignment. So it depends upon the scale of the disaster, upon the magnitude of the disaster. If the disaster is very big, is huge, then we'll have a commander and deputy commander. If the incident is not that big, then we may not need the deputy commander. So it depends upon the situation. So incident managed using incident command system. So we can use in all these disasters, like natural disasters, we may have tornadoes, floods, fires, earthquakes, and so on and so forth. And human and animal disaster outbreaks. For example, some months ago in Africa, they had Ebola, and sometimes we have swine flu, sometimes we have bird flu, and in the past we had plague, and so much of disasters. So we have to take into account those disasters. And search and rescue missions, if there is floods, landslides and earthquakes and people are buried under the debris, then we have to carry out light and heavy search and rescue works. And if it is industrial or chemical incident or accident, then if it is related to hazardous materials, then we have to act accordingly. And if it is terrorist incidents, we have to do accordingly. And we have to carry out recovery operations and distribution of humanitarian assistance, because people, first of all, maybe if you are from the medical field, then you know that we have to triage system. We identify the victims, whether we have to prioritize the seriously injured victims, not the dead victim. So we have to classify the victims, whether the victim is dead, is seriously injured, lightly injured or not injured, and then we have to act accordingly. If someone is lightly injured, then he can be the source of carrying out rescue and relief works. So we can use him as a potential responder. And distribution of humanitarian assistance, after identifying the victims, we have to distribute relief materials like food, water, shelter, and like that, at least for some days. And planned events like Hajj, rally, parade, sports, concerts, in such events we may need the health response plan and health response works. So this is here we have 3-4 advantages of ICS, and number one is it meets the needs of incidents of any kind or size. So if we have a well organized system, then we can mitigate, we can respond any kind of incident, whether it is big, medium or small. And it allows personnel from a variety of agencies to meld rapidly into a common management structure. As I mentioned earlier, that different agencies, organizations and individuals are being involved in managing the disasters from various fields. So we must have regular interaction, meetings and workshops, so that we will be able to know each other, we may be able to share our experiences, we may be able to exchange our knowledge, and that will be very useful in real emergency. And thirdly, this ICS provides logistical and administrative support to operational staff. I mentioned earlier that without any well-organized plan and without sufficient resources or infrastructure, we cannot move ahead, we cannot carry out rescue and relief works. If the responder himself or herself is in danger or is in dangerous position, then he or she cannot carry out any rescue relief works. So their safety is of prime importance. And if we carry out response in a well-managed way, then it is cost-effective and it can avoid duplication, and so that we can save our scarce resources. So this is cost-effective. So here, unity of command means under unity of command personnel, each and everyone should report to only one supervisor, because if they will report to several people, then there will be confusion, there will be chaos, there will be the response work will be affected negatively. And secondly, should receive work assignment only from their supervisors. If there will be too many commanders, then there will be confusion again. So there should be single supervisor and commander. We can take it as one door policy also. So this is we can frame it in different way. So here we have responsible officials, group of responsible officials, and then from among them we select incident commander. And then we may have, if the disaster is of large scale, then we may have a deputy commander. And then it depends what kind of disaster it is. We may need to have a public information officer, liaison officer, safety officer, health personnel, and so on and so forth. And we must have operations sections, planning section, logistics sections, because we need resources, and finance administration section because we need money. So this is tentative and rough structure. We can frame it according to our need. So this is another structure. Here we have, so the difference here is that we select commander from among these responsible officers. I told you earlier that if this is fire hazard, then the chief of the fire will take the leadership, and if it is related to health, then the health officer or director of health department will be the in charge. If it is riot, then the police chief, and so on and so forth. So now we have incident commander, and as mentioned earlier, we have public information officer, liaison officer, safety officer, and operations section. And so this kind of structure we can frame, and this structure can be changed according to the situation, according to the level of disaster. So this is just a rough idea, rough estimate. And chain of command is always very important. And here we have incident commander and public information officer, again the same thing. And we may have several other departments or branches according to the need. And sometimes you see, whenever we carry out rescue and relief works, and when we may encounter a new threat or new disaster, in that case we may need to change the commander. So in that case, here you can see that now you have been serving as the initial incident commander. A more qualified staff member has just arrived at the scene and will assume command of the incident. Say for example, if that was a riot, and the riot was not that big in the beginning, then the deputy chief of police was the commander. But later on, if the riot became too big and there was more damage, then the chief of the police will be take the in charge. He will be the commander, and the deputy commander will assist him. So it depends upon the situation. If the situation is getting worse and is worsening, then we may need to change the commander, more efficient and more high level we may need. So these are the steps to assume command. We have to assess the situation with the current incident commander. If we have new commander, then he will be debriefed by the existing commander. He will report him. He will tell him what happened earlier and what is expected to happen in the days to come or in the time to come, and then he will get briefing from the existing commander and receive a briefing from the current incident commander, and determine an appropriate time for the transfer of command and document the transfer. So it should be in appropriate time. You cannot do it in wrong time. If the riot is going on at that time, I think it will be difficult to transfer the command. There will be further damage. So we should wait for the appropriate time and situation. And fourthly, notify others of the change in incident command, because there are several people working together. I showed you earlier that the people who are carrying out rescue and relief operations, they have to report single person to the supervisor, and the supervisor will be directed by the commanders. So if the commander is changed, then all people who are the supervisors and other helping people, they should be informed in due time that now we have a new commander, he has taken the charge, and so that kind of information should be given to all the responders. And assign the current incident commander to another position in the incident organization. So who was commander earlier should not be thrown away. He should be there. He should be there because he has got experience. He knows the situation. So he is a very good resource, very good source of information. So he still should be there as the deputy commander, or maybe he can take another position. It depends upon his expertise or area work. So how do we assess the incident? We have to look into the nature of the incident, what kind of incident that is natural disaster or human disaster, or this is floods, landslide, cyclone, or what kind of incident it is. So it is very important to know that. And the location of the incident. Location means geographical locations. It is in urban area, it is in rural area, it is in hilly area, it is in desert, or it is seashore, or where it is. So location is very important so that we can allocate resources. Resources means human resource as well as financial resources accordingly, so that we can use we can use appropriately. For example, people who have a problem in climbing the hills, and if the incident is in the hills, then there is no point to send those people in that area. We have to find people who can climb the hill, or people who are not used to certain environment or climate. We have to identify and we have to send accordingly. So if the terrain is difficult, elderly people cannot go there. So we have to select in that way. And we have to we have to find out the extent of the incident, how many people involved, means how many people died or are going to die, or how many injuries are there, or how many people are potential victims, and so on and so forth. And how severe is the illness or injury is caused. The impact of the incident, we have to look into health impact, we have to look into socio-economic impact. Health impact is a primary concern because the impact is immediate. Socio-economic is long term. You see, the impact will last, may last forever, because the damage caused will affect our economy. And the operating environment, when we go at the site, then human resource, how many people we have, how skilled they are, and what is their availability, whether they are available or not, whether they have gone somewhere else. So that is necessary. And in consumables, we must have masks, drugs, and personal protective equipment. If it is a fire hazard, of course, we must have personal protective equipment, and if it is chemical disaster, also we must have. And if we have extreme heat or cold, also we must have protective equipment. And food, fuel and power, all these things are very necessary. And with regard to facilities, we must have dedicated facilities and scope for additional capacity. If we don't have this, then the response will be poor. And equipment, we must have ventilators, transport infrastructure, and we must have data and information. If we don't have data and information, we cannot allocate, we cannot take with us sufficient resources. So let us look into the operating environment. We have to we have to look what is the capacity of local resources. If we are going from the center or province to local level, then we have to find out the local capacity, what is their capacity. If their capacity break, how long? 10 minutes. Okay, I have been told that we'll make 10 minutes break and then we'll continue from here. Thank you. So we were talking before the break about this incident assessment, which is the continuation. So we have to look into what is the capacity of local resources, what are the gaps and needs, and what are the strategies to expand resources. Earlier also I briefly mentioned that we must have proactive legislations, and not only the legislations but also we must have strategies and action plans and response frameworks and so on and so forth. So what is available at the local level we must understand before going to rescue and relief, and what external assistance is required. So that you can be well prepared, you can take with you human and material resources accordingly, and what strategies are needed to obtain additional assistance as required. What is the timing of that assistance? So the duration, for how many days, how many weeks or months, That is very important. And stakeholders and environment, we have to identify who are the key stakeholders. When carrying out response work, we have to identify the key stakeholders. And then who is the person in authority to act, and what authority he has, how powerful he or she is. That is also very important. If somebody is there and he or she cannot help you, cannot provide you any resources or help, then that is just a waste of your time and resources. So we must understand that. And the source of information should be very, very reliable. Because sometimes, particularly it happens to the fire brigade, I don't know in this country, but in some other countries, including mine, people, they make bluff calls. You see, they dial the fire brigade and say we have a fire hazard, and also even to the police, they say there is something wrong, please come here, and when the police and the fire brigade goes there, then nothing is there. So that kind of thing we have to take into account. And what is the international, national and local commitment? What is the legal framework? I told you earlier that we must have proactive policy, act, regulations, laws, bylaws, guidelines and so on and so forth. Without that, we cannot have legal basis. And whenever there is no legal backup, then you cannot work in good authority. And what are their views? I mean, the views of the locality where the disaster is happening, and what impact will they have if it is already impacted, and if there is the potentiality of future impacts, then we have to look into that aspect also. So there are 8 C's of incident, you see, like command, control, coordination, communication, clinical management, containment or restraint, capacity and continuity. These are the main components of 8 C's, which are, I think, very common. You see this picture here is from Kathmandu, from the capital city of Nepal, and here you can see this water. This is flood during the rainy season. It is nearly more than 1.5 meter, and below this, this is blacktop road, beach road. But now we have a flood even in the city, and some people died. This is an old picture, 7-8 years old. So this is another diagram, another organizational structure where incident management system can be carried out. So this is not very different than the earlier one, but it has got some new aspects, like we have incident controller or commander, and then he coordinates with other bodies to manage the incident, and we have safety advisor, and we have planning section, operation center, and section and logistics section. It's the same as I mentioned earlier. The earlier one is American one, and this is Australian Emergency Management Organization Society. So this is Australian model. So they work in this way. They have this vertical and horizontal process. It's very simple. So this command, control and coordination mechanism. So how does Australian Management Institute define the command? They say that command is the internal direction of the members and resources of an agency in the performance of the organization's role and tasks. Command operates vertically within an organization. So command is vertical. It goes top to down. Control refers to the overall direction of emergency management activities in an emergency situation. Authority for control is established in legislation or in an emergency plan, and carries with it the responsibility for tasking other organizations in accordance with the needs of the situation. And control relates to situation and operates horizontally across organizations. So it explains this diagram, this one, you see. So how is command and control, and coordination refers to the bringing together of organizations and other resources to support an emergency management response. It involves the systematic acquisition of application of resources, organizational, human and equipment in accordance with the needs of the situation. Control relates to situations and operates horizontally across organizations. We already discussed this in earlier slides, so I will not go into detail. So this is Australian system. So here I have presented you some examples of combat agencies, like whenever there is the emergency of animal, plant disease, rodent or insect plague, then the responsible agencies in many countries will be the Department of Food and Agriculture. Maybe the name may be slightly different in various countries, but in most countries it is like this. Fire, if it is in within the rural area, then rural fire service. If it is at the urban area or municipal area, then the municipality will have the fire brigade, will manage the fire. But in some countries, it is managed directly by the Ministry of Home Affairs. Earlier in our country, in Nepal, it was managed by Ministry of Home Affairs, but nowadays it is managed by the municipality. But in case of airports, they have their own fire brigade, so they manage themselves. The airport authority, they manage. So it depends, you see. Maybe some security forces, security personnel, they have their own fire engine, fire brigade. So they manage themselves. So it depends. And if it is within the district, then the district fire brigade. And if it is related to food, then district food authority. And if it is regional, then the regional. And if it is provincial, then the provincial. If it is central, then the central. And flood also, it depends upon the which level, whether it is at local level, district level, provincial or central. And hazardous material, of course, fire brigades. And law enforcement during a declaration, or if there is riot, then police force, of course, everywhere. And pandemic. If there is a health disaster like swine flu, Ebola, bird flu, some years ago we had SARS in some countries. So that kind of things, that kind of disasters are known as pandemic. When they cross the borders, when it is international, then we call it pandemic. Otherwise we call it, if it is within the country, then we call it epidemic. That is the difference between epidemic and pandemic. Epidemic is localized. Pandemic is, it crosses the borders. And search and rescue, of course, is carried out by the police force. And storm, district emergency service, or maybe in some countries, maybe different. So in Asia, if we talk about South Asia, India, they are using this incident command system very recently, since a few years. Nepal, we have used partially. We have not been able to use it totally, fully, due to our internal management system. Because there is dispute, you see, among the government agencies that we have our own system. So why do we copy this American system, or why do we copy Australian system? Our system is better than theirs. There are some authorities like that. So we have not been able to apply it fully. In Bhutan, they have applied since some years, also in Sri Lanka. In other countries in South Asia, in Maldives, in Bangladesh, they don't have. They have not used. And also in Pakistan, they don't. So in incident command system, we can develop a strategy for, say, about 3 to 5 years. In phase 1, we may have foundation and consultation. Phase 2, we can have formal training of trainers in incident command system curriculum. We have to develop the curriculum and we have to train the concerned officials, and we can get external help if necessary. If not, if our human resource and material resource is adequate enough, then we can straight away carry out training of trainers program. And phase 3, initial implementation through pilot projects, simulation exercises, establishment of incident command system teams. So in a country where there is frequent floods, landslides and earthquakes, and also even for cyclones, we may need to have simulation exercises from time to time. Take the example of Japan, they have simulation exercise at the school almost every week, so that people are used to run away or to protect themselves in the event of an potential earthquake disaster. So simulation exercise helps us very much to save our own life and to save the life of others. It is very useful for us. And we test it, we know the result in the time of real emergency. If we have only theoretical knowledge, we cannot do anything. I mean, we cannot save the lives. We must have practical knowledge. Practical knowledge we can get through the training and through the simulation exercise. Because practice, we know it, that practice makes men perfect. And institutionalization through legislation, national guidelines, directives, field manuals, standard operating procedures, etc. So, I told you in the beginning that if we will have no proactive policies, rules, regulations and acts, we cannot carry out our function appropriately. So, there should be the legal basis, legal backup and legal support, so that you can claim, you can fight for that. If we don't have all these things, then it will be difficult to manage the disasters properly. So, these are key for success. You see, whatever you do, you do for the good of the population or the affected people, and that should be supported by your senior officials. If you go for response work and if you do small minor mistakes, or maybe sometimes you do major mistakes and your senior officials will take action against you, then next time you will not go. So it should not be like that. The senior officials should always support the juniors who go in the field in response. If they have done their work in good faith, appropriately, and something wrong has gone, then even then the senior official should encourage them, should support them, so that he will be motivated in the next time. Because man always makes mistake. You see, we have to learn from mistakes. We learn from our past mistakes. So we cannot find any person who never have committed any mistakes. And identify focal point, department and officer to oversee programs. So we have to find out the appropriate authority or person, the person in authority, who is responsible for what. That is very important. And develop criteria and select candidates for master trainers and ensure their availability for multiple training. If we will train young peoples and appropriate persons, then they will be very good resource for our future interventions, because it will have multiplier effect. If we train a potential person, appropriate person, then he can train other 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, hundreds of people. You see, the effect will be multiplier. So we have to select from among the potential candidates. And we have to identify opportunities to practice systems for planned events, mock drills and incidents. So we have to schedule it, we have to design it, and we have to find appropriate time to carry out all these things. And create customized training tools in local language, training modules, standing operation procedures, guidelines and so on. Because you see, I told you earlier, I don't know about Saudi Arabia. In our country, there are some communities who don't speak national language, they speak their own local language. So for those people, we have to develop these training modules, standard operating procedures and guidelines in local language, so that they can understand well and they can follow well and they can act accordingly. Otherwise, it will not work. So it is very necessary. So this is the summary part. So in summary, what we can say is that incident command system is a standardized management tool to address small or large emergency situations. Again, I would like to request you all and repeat that this system is not the system which is necessary to follow totally. We can change it according to our local situation, according to the country situation, according to the hazard that occurs in our country. So we should not follow blindly, but we can take some idea from this system and build our own system which is compatible to our country and the local, provincial, district and national level. And secondly, this ICS utilizes management features like common terminology and a modular organizational structure, and it follows the principles of chain of command. I showed you one slide where there is the mention about the chain of command. whatever the commander says, the others should follow. Otherwise, there will be chaos and confusion, and maybe they will be indisciplined. So, to maintain the discipline, there should be the chain of command, like in the security force. And it emphasizes effective planning through the use of management by objectives and incident action plan. And it supports responders by providing data they need through effective information and intelligence management, because data and information are very, very important in disaster management system anywhere. And it ensures, incident command system ensures that resources are ready through accountability and dispatch deployment processes, and it ensures full utilization of incident resources by maintaining manageable span of control, implementing resource management practices, and ensuring integrated communication. So, well-trained human resource and sufficient budget and sufficient and highly developed equipment will help us to reduce the impact of potential disasters. Even we have 3 stages of disasters: before disaster, during disaster, and after disaster. So we can be prepared, we can make our communities prepared accordingly, and even if we are well prepared, and even if there is disaster, then we can carry out our response work more efficiently and effectively. And after the response, we have a rehabilitation and reconstruction phase, where we can build better infrastructures, we can build more safe buildings or other infrastructures. So there is a very famous saying or understanding that disasters always they are good for better development. You see, disasters are not a good thing. It causes human life loss, injuries, and property damage. But if earlier the road was narrow, then after the disaster, we feel that we need a wider road. So, particularly after earthquake, the cities which are built after earthquake are more better than the earlier times. So, disaster in that sense are good, that we can develop our infrastructure in more developed way. So finally, here is one thought which I would like to quote and are related to disaster management. So Mahatma Gandhi, you see, who was from India, long ago he told that, Mahatma Gandhi told that the earth has enough to fulfill human needs, but not enough to fulfill our greed. Means some people, they invite disasters by encroaching and by ignoring the rule of the nature. If we go and settle down in flood-prone areas, then we will be hit by floods. There is no doubt. If we settle in landslide-prone areas, then of course we will have to face landslides. So we must have hazard mapping. We must know the terrain. We must know what kind of hazard might occur there, and we have to take safety measures accordingly. And people who have enough for their livelihood, due to their greediness, they encroach the nature. They ignore the rule of the nature. They go to the flood-prone areas on the river bank or slope areas, and they encounter disasters and they lost their lives. So that is what he meant to say, and I just wanted to quote here. And Bill Gates, he is not from the disaster field, but I wanted to quote him while he says that the future is always full of surprise. There are no surprises in the past, but there are lessons. So we can apply it in disaster management also. We can learn from the past disasters. We can learn from our past mistakes, and we can improve so that we can mitigate the disasters more efficiently and effectively, which will help us to reduce the loss of lives, injuries, and property loss. And finally, as I told you, proactive policies and legislations are very important. So this is time for us to have proactive policy, and we must have policy, and we have to act accordingly. Even if we have a good policy or a good legislation, if we don't act accordingly, it doesn't work. Say, for example, rules, regulations, acts in our part of the world sometimes are ignored, particularly by the big authorities. You see, they know what is the rule, what is the regulation, what the law says, but they like to break the law. You see, particularly the politicians. So the problem with us is that we have very good regulations, very good laws, but the problem is enforcement. The enforcement part is very weak. It is good to have a good law, but it is too bad to break the law. So we must have a proactive and good law, and everyone should follow them. No one is above the law. So that is very important. And we have to move from reactive to proactive approach, because in some countries, including my country, we have a reactive approach. Whenever there is disaster, then the government goes for relief and rescue. But preparedness and rehabilitation, reconstruction is very, very weak, because you see, if they go to response, then they will get the sympathy of the people, local people, and they will vote the particular political party. That is very bad, you see. So that is why they are much more interested to respond in the time of disasters, but other times they just don't care. They are not more focused in preparedness and not interested in rehabilitation and reconstruction. So for incident management system, that is all from my side. I'll be happy if you have any questions, and if I'll be able to answer. And even if it is too early, I have other materials related to these topics. I can make a presentation. Otherwise, the floor is open for any questions. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You are welcome, Mr. in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and also King Abdulaziz University. My name is Ahmed Al-Ghamdi. I'm a student in Marine Engineering Department. So as a marine engineer, as a part of our responsibilities on ship safety and security as well, we have an emergency plan which concerns with pollution, fire and disaster also. My question is, are those plans has a relation with this workshop?
Please, can you repeat your question?
My question is, on board ship we have an emergency plan which is concerned about pollution and fire and disaster. My question is there any relation between this emergency plan and this workshop?
Of course it is. Because we must have, we must take all hazard approach, you see. First of all, we have to identify what kind of hazard we are facing, and then we have to plan accordingly. The plan, I think at some point I mentioned that the plan which we have prepared, or the strategy or action plan which we have prepared for a particular hazard like earthquake cannot be applicable for floods or volcano or bushfire or something like that. So we must have hazard specific plan. Is that your question, or maybe you see? So plan is very necessary. First of all, we must have proactive legislation, as I have repeatedly mentioned, and then we must have plan, and the plan should be a living document. Plan is not like an act. You have to go to the parliament or the minister or the cabinet. Plan you can change it from your own organization. So it is a kind of living document. So from the past events, past disasters which you are coping or you have mitigated in the past, you can learn lesson from there and you can improve your plan from time to time. So we must have hazard specific plans, strategies and response framework. So we must take all hazard approach. By taking all hazard, we must identify what kind of hazard we are facing and we are going to face in the future. We have to identify the potential hazards and we have to prepare the plans accordingly. And in the preparation of those plans, we must take the help of the related experts. You see, if it is related to geohazards, then we must have geologists. If it is related to earthquake, also we must have earthquake specialist and geologist. So if it is related to health hazard, then we must have medical professionals. So we have to identify the potential human resource and prepare the plan accordingly. In some countries, you see, plan is prepared by the bureaucrats. They don't know nook and corner of everything, and they prepare incomplete plan, which cannot be applicable in the time of crisis. So that is very important. Thank you for your question. Good question. Yeah, very good question. From gentle ladies, any question? No?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for the presentation and your effort. Just first of all, I am a chairman of the Hazard Analysis and Management Department in the Emergency and Disaster Center in KEO. I have a question regarding to the incident command system. Is there a standard for the incident command system, or depend about the type of organization? Is there a standard incident command system flow chart, or there is depend about the type of organization?
I already showed you the organizational structure. That is just a model. It is just a Australian and American model. And during my presentation, I told you that we can modify it. We can change according to our need. According to our need. So it is not necessary to follow blindly. We can make better than this. And if you develop, then you can share it with other countries. Maybe the Australians, the Americans will copy from you. So you can have better plan, better incident command system, and you can name it differently. It is not necessary to say that command, control and coordination mechanism, or it is not necessary that you should say incident command system. You can say something else. You can coin a new terminology. But we can go in detail also. For example, you see here I think there are a lot of medical professionals also. So here I have one material related to that. Let me find out. Yeah, here I have. This is actually I have taken from this Australian model. Here you can find command positions guide. This is developed by there is one hospital in Queensland, in Brisbane, Mater Hospital, very good, very sophisticated hospital, and they have developed this command position guide. So you also have, I guess, very good big hospitals here. So you can develop your own guide. Based on this guide, you can take example from this guide and develop your own guide. Here, I am not going to present it here, but I will show you very quickly what it contains. Just a minute. Okay. Here you can find emergency response command and support positions, operations officers, planning officer, logistics officer, emergency liaison officer, safety officer, and their roles and responsibilities are here. You can copy it. You can take it as the reference material. And activation of emergency operation center. You have your own emergency operation center. You can develop better than this one. And what are the other command positions? Here there is the description. How is the emergency operation center? This is for only health related emergencies. You see. And role of hospital emergency commander, what is his roles and responsibilities, you can find here. You see his roles and responsibilities, and operations officers, what he does, what he ought to do, and you can add. If something is missing here, you can add from your side. And hospital sector commander, what the sector commander does. The earlier commander is the overall commander, and this is the sector commander. You have different sections, sectors, and you may have a separate commander. And you have chief evacuation warden. So what is his roles and responsibilities are here. and planning officer, what is his role, what he must do, and resource officer. We must have technical specialists. What is their role is here. Intelligence officer for data and information, we need intelligence officer. So his roles and responsibilities are here. And we need volunteer support officer to mobilize the volunteers. And we must have clinical support officer as well. And media officer, because the role of media in disaster management is very crucial, very important. So we can use a media officer. And logistic officer. Without logistics, we cannot manage disasters. We need at all stages for preparedness, for response, for rehabilitation, reconstruction, post-disaster. We need logistics. So it also is very important. And engineering services officer, people support officer, emergency operations center administration officer. He collects the data and information and he disseminates to the concerned stakeholders, and they analyze it and they operate accordingly in the days to come. And hotel services officer, which is also necessary in big disasters. So here you can find what they have to do. And IT and communications officer, because you have to you have a briefing, debriefing, and maybe midterm evaluation. For that, the role of IT and communication officer is very important. And incident records officer. In the beginning, I told you that if time permits, we must have briefing in the beginning, and then if we have time, we may carry on midterm evaluation, and in the end there should be debriefing or evaluation, so that we assess the situation, whether we did our job in an excellent way, or it was just very good, or it was poor, so that we can correct ourselves. And supply officer for materials, and emergency liaison officer, safety officer, and here are some additional tips. So like this, you see, you can develop your one plan. You can take it as a guideline, as a reference material, and you can develop your one manual, which is more compatible, applicable, and practical to your country and local situation. So, do we still have time, or shall we close it? Close? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was my great pleasure to be here among yourselves. If we have anything to share, then I'm available here today and tomorrow. So please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.